Peace and blessings, everyone. This is another special episode of In Studio with Asa Khalif. And if you're looking, clearly I'm not Asa Khalif, these two individuals here, but they will explain who they are in a minute. Today's podcast will be an update on the Tyquan Atkinson case. And here we have Tyquan's mother, Stacy Atkinson. And we have Chris, and Chris will introduce himself in his official capacity. So I'm going to leave this over to you guys to take over right now. So Chris.
All right. Yeah, so I'm Chris Eden. I'm part of the South Philly Participatory Defense Hub. We support people and their loved ones if they have an open criminal case, navigate the system, and really learn how to through that navigation advocate for themselves to really hold on to the agency that is theirs in their full humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And in that capacity, at the end of March, I met Stacy while she was getting ready to sit through her son Tyquan Atkinson's trial.
And Stacy, would you like to introduce yourself personally?
I am Stacy Atkinson. I'm Tyquan Atkinson's mom. He is my only child.
Now, for those who are familiar with Tyquan Atkinson's case, it will pretty much be an update. But for those who are not familiar with his case, would you both try to, Stacy, we can start with you. Give us the history of Tyquan Atkinson.
History of Tyquan Atkinson, back in 2019, he was accused of a murder of Chief Police Inspector's son, Nicholas Flacco. He maintained his innocence the whole 3 years. He waited 3 years for his time in court, and that came the last week of March of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And he was acquitted April 6th, murder and all other charges.
And he was acquitted of all charges,
all
correct?
Charges,
okay.
All charges.
Mm-hmm.
We thought he was going to be released that day, April
Mm-hmm.
6th.
Mm-hmm.
We went down to Pick on State Road, friends and family. Waited 10 p.m., 11 o'clock p.m., midnight, then the morning rolls around. Tyquan's still not released. So now we're calling a lawyer, like what's going on? Here, Tyquan, we find out, was not going to be released because he was being held for jail infractions.
Okay.
I find out that Tyquan was actually brought to court 2 weeks before his actual murder trial, which would have been March 15th, by Anthony Voci, prosecutor for the District Attorney's Office.
Mm-hmm.
Voci brings Tyquan to court for jail infraction that happened in 2020.
Okay.
Tyquan is found guilty on these infractions.
Mm-hmm.
We find out that that's the reason that he was not released.
So they were holding him on the infractions that he encountered
in 2020, but they decided to bring him to court for those infractions in 2 weeks before his murder trial.
I see. So how they're using, or how they're playing it, is the infractions gives them justification to holding him when he ultimately should have been released once he was found not guilty.
Right, which I find really disturbing because he was punished in the jail.
Yeah, it would usually be time served. Well, Chris, you're familiar with a lot of this stuff. This is unusual.
Really through this.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is unusual.
Yeah.
Because I think why everyone is just so fascinated with this case is because had it not been in the media, if this was just a regular case and Tyquan was not in the media for being accused of what he was accused of, most likely when time served and the person would be released on their own recognizance, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that we really see this. We really see the continued incarceration of Tyquan as having everything to do with the murder of which he was acquitted, and specifically the person who was murdered being a police officer's son.
Now, Larry Krasner would say that this case is not personal, has absolutely nothing to do with the last case that he was acquitted of with the police officer's son. But the day that Tyquan was to appear in court, the family of the victim and the police officers flooded the hallway in the courtroom, correct? And this was just for the sentence, for the hearing.
Right, there was a bail motion.
For the bail motion, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, when you see that, it kind of defeats the purpose of, you kind of question the district attorney and say, well, it's not personal, but why are they here for a bail hearing?
And that bail motions hearing was the 17th of April, which was 11 days after his acquittal. So this bail motions hearing had nothing to do with the murder trial. The murder trial was over.
Yeah, that's done and over with.
Yeah.
So if you thought that it was personal, if you had any reservations that it may not be personal, when you walk into a courtroom and you see that, the individual's there, it kind of confirms that it is a little personal.
Yeah, it's hard to see it any other way.
I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's like you gotta laugh and keep from crying because it's just the fact that Tyquan spent 3 years in jail just to get a trial.
Yeah.
The fact that he went in at 19.
Yeah.
And he's spending another birthday.
Right.
In the same jail, it's infuriating, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand, and maybe you guys can help. We talked about this too.
If you're looking to us for understanding, I don't know.
No. I mean, exactly. I mean, but it feels to me, and I talked to you about this, Chris. It feels to me like we're dealing with Lynn Abraham and Seth Williams type of regime.
I have said as much. It certainly feels regressive.
Yes,
to the kinds, and regressive, I think, is the appropriate word when our current district attorney ran on a progressive platform.
Yes.
Wrote a book.
Yes.
And in his opening chapters, talks about the reasons he run being because of these kinds of unilateral abuses. The kind of power that a district attorney's office wields. Yes. And the kind of choices that they are legally allowed to make. That power has led to this incredible incarceration system, like so many men and women just being sent up on very little, and just leaving a huge impact. So Tyquan really is a focal point for us to talk about a much larger system that Larry really got us started talking about when he kicked off that campaign in 2017.
Yeah, I remember. I got the call to be there.
So he's got us talking, and now what we're talking about is him.
It's him. And it's sad because when Larry was in private practice, activists who are in the BLM movement and other activists who are in certain other movements, this is the case we bring to him. This is the case that he would take pro bono.
Right.
This is the case where he would work with us, and we've worked with him in cases not as unusual as this. I mean, this case is just really bizarre. Yeah. But in terms of fighting a system that wants to keep someone incarcerated, even though if they know that this person is innocent.
Yeah.
Larry would actually be here advocating for Tyquan Atkinson if he was not in the district attorney's office or as a district attorney.
I think even if we were talking about someone who is guilty of the kinds of things that Tyquan is being charged with, it's so hard to pursue those charges to their legal end when what comes in front of all that is his acquittal.
Right.
It's really hard to take those charges seriously
Mm-hmm.
in the light of, well, the actual legal ramifications of charges like that for someone who has no prior record, which
Right.
Tyquan, as an acquitted person, does.
Now, Tyquan Atkinson, I just want to make this very clear, has never been in trouble with the law, has never been arrested.
No,
Right.
and I try make sure that I'm stressing that he's never been to juvie. He's never been arrested
Not even
for
a jaywalking ticket.
anything.
Right.
No arrest record at all.
I've used these words because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is someone who you don't want to get caught up in a system.
Right, right.
You know, this is someone who you want to be
Yeah.
out in the streets and living their lives and living it to the full potential.
And what his incarceration does and what the carceral system does is it sets up this foregone conclusion where we have to start talking about him in this way for things he's standing accused of but has not been tried for and not tried for successfully. There's a progression of things happening.
Right.
And so depending on where you position yourself at the start of this conversation, it's easy to see him as an incarcerated person as having a record.
Right.
Technically, legally, he does not.
Yeah, because he's been acquitted.
Right.
And I think language is very important and how we, describe him.
Right.
I know that the district attorney, the prosecutors are trying to describe him as something altogether different. And it's important, as I said, language is important that we continue to humanize this young man and to remind him of his good points, because you get good points if you haven't been in trouble with the law.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something to be proud of as a young black male, having that connection with his mother.
Right.
Listening to the rules in the house, and because there's rules. I've lived with my mother. There were rules. And, that's the model kid. If you want to talk about the model kid, that's the model kid that you want to support.
Right.
And the fact that this district attorney's office is using that power to, brand this young man and put him on the road where where we are fighting so much to redeem a lot of these young people who have been on that road.
Right.
It's just, for me, outrageous.
We're really trying to stop a moving train.
Yes.
Is what we're doing right
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move a little further. So presently, where do we stand with Tyquan's case? And then we're also going to discuss what we can do and what the audience can do in terms of rallying around you and your family and Tyquan and using their social media platforms. So let's get with where we stand right now with the case.
Where we stand right now is he has sentencing coming up Thursday, June 2nd, for the jail infraction. I believe they're trying to give him maximum time for this misdemeanor.
So we're talking state at this point.
Possibly, yes.
Possibly. Okay.
And when we talk about maximum time, we're talking about maximizing time.
Yes.
There is a sentencing guideline used by the state. It's not law, it's guidelines.
Yes.
And what we're talking about, if we go off the guidelines for Tyquan's case, at this point, he's been convicted of 2 first-degree misdemeanors. Those each come with a maximum of 6 months probation.
6 months probation.
So we would be talking about a year's probation. But when we're talking about maximizing charges, we're talking about adding to the script of Tyquan's allegations.
I see.
Right.
So the pile up, basically.
Yeah.
They're trying to do a pile up.
Exactly. To create this justification for an outsized amount of time.
Exactly. Okay. Because they have to justify it.
Yeah.
Because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Their own law that they go by, their guidelines, would state that what they're doing is just completely wrong. It's really borderline illegal if you really want to look at it.
There's
Every
like
sense of the way.
it's the difference between illegal and truly just.
Yes.
Like the DA in all this hasn't taken any actions that they aren't legally allowed to, and that's that unilateral power that Larry himself has talked about being up in arms about.
Yes, this is what he ran on.
Yeah.
And he ran on it twice.
Yeah, everything they're doing is legal. It is by far, it's far from being right.
I'm telling you, if I had a blindfold, if I closed my eyes and I heard you guys talking about this case, I would swear that we are still under Lynn Abraham and that we're still under Seth Williams, because this is the crap that they did in their administration.
Right.
I have to keep bringing it up because, are we dealing with a progressive? Are we dealing with, are we going back in time?
Yeah.
Is this Back
That's
to
what
the
it
Future
feels
shit?
like.
I mean, what is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's infuriating.
Yeah.
It really is. Because, all right, I'm gonna, I mean, I think anyone, because Tyquan Atkinson, I'm telling you, at my age, can be me.
Yeah.
And my mother could be sitting here with Chris pleading for help and support, and I say that as a man of color, who is completely targeted, on a daily basis. So it's really personal, for me. And not only that, Tyquan could be my son. He could be my little brother. I mean, it's just, you're not untouchable when you're dealing with a corrupt system that wants to have, a goal, which is to keep black and brown and poor people behind bars.
So true.
And that's just it. All right, so we know where we stand. Now, the court hearing is Thursday, June 2nd, and courtroom is
7:06.
7:06.
9:30 a.m.
9:30 a.m., and we're asking everyone to please write that down.
Yeah.
And please come and join us.
Join us.
Everyone is
Absolutely.
welcome.
Yeah.
We're asking you, from all walks of life,
Right.
if you believe in truth and justice, please come and stand behind our brother Tyquan and his mother and his grandmother and his family.
Absolutely.
So what can we do, Chris, regarding social media as we start to wrap it up a little?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to find us on social media, Stacy, myself, Asa, several people, we've been using the hashtag Free Tyquan Atkinson, Free Tyquan 22. So those are great ways to find us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever you're using.
Okay.
There are some actions you can take. Best place to follow those, if you know about Bitly's, is bit.ly/Free Tyquan.
Okay.
Essentially, though, it's send DA Krasner emails.
We're calling the office as
or
well,
calling
too.
the office. Those are the two main actions beyond social media and beyond being there with us that we're asking. Although other things that are really helpful for Tyquan, one of the things that judges don't see and see better when there's a courtroom full of people, so that's why we're asking people to come. But one of the other things that we ask that people do is show the judge in that there's a community of people behind Tyquan, right?
Yes.
So like Tyquan's going to come out and he's going to need employment. He's going to need resources to other things. So if you're in a position to offer those kinds of things, write a letter addressed to Judge Twardy, and you can. I don't know how the best place to email that is actually to Stacy.
To Stacy, yes.
Let him know.
Stacy, your email. I'm sorry, and your email.
It's Jean Atkinson at gmail.com, and that's GeanAtkinson at
Okay.
And so in that regard, like what you're saying is that you're a person who is receiving Tyquan, is expectantly waiting for him to come home, and also have a plan to support him.
Yes.
Right. So like I know that judge's concern is, if I just let this person go, are they just going to leave and wild out? And while we know that's never going to be Tyquan's story, we can also show the judge why.
Right. I see. Any final, as we wrap it up, because we can go on and on. It's just, I mean, really, because it's so passionate, and it's. I don't want to say it's sad, because his story has yet to be finished.
Right.
And we believe and we're manifesting that his story will be, that of Victor.
Mm-hmm.
He will be victorious with this, and we will push for that. But I just want to also let the audience know that Tyquan is really holding up. In spite of them trying to break his spirit, they couldn't. And that has a lot to say about you, Stacy, and your family, love of a mother, and his grandmother, and your family, and that family unit to get him through those dark times. And that's something, unfortunately, a lot of young black males don't have, and females, a strong family unit. And so I just thank God for you and your mother and your family to rally around him.
It has not been easy.
No, I can
will
imagine.
But yeah, I try to make sure that I'm giving Tyquan positive affirmations all the time.
Yes.
Like, he knows he's loved. He knows that there is now a hub, a community, like everyone that's been coming out, speaking up on his behalf, advocating for him. So he's aware of all of these things.
And I think you felt that the last time he was in court when he turned and
said
saw.
something about that.
Yeah,
he saw everybody.
The light came back on. You could see he was like, okay,
Gave
people have
him
your
a
back.
lot of press to keep going and not, be in that despair type. Because this is very
It's nothing like having someone literally, when you turn around, have your back.
Yes.
And the energy, that's formulating and going directly to him.
It can be very discouraging for somebody.
Right. And just break that wall of silence and that wall of viciousness, because that's what it is from the law.
Yeah.
So, any final words? And then I'm going to give
a lot of it from me. Took the words out of my mouth, Brother Asa.
Yes.
But I do want justice for him. I want him to come out and be able to live his life and be free from this whole situation, not physically being in jail, but this whole situation, he's in bondage still, I want him free from that, where he can just go on with his life and be happy and be a productive member of society. And like I said, my only child, I miss him tremendously, and I just want my baby home. I want him to have justice.
And it's also amazing because every interview you have a special message for the victim's family.
Yes.
And and I don't want anyone watching this to feel that we have forgotten about the victim's family. We've all have lost someone, maybe not into this type of degree, but having someone who, my family recently, who was just violently murdered. I sympathize, and I know you do too. And I just wanted to, and I know you say this in all your interviews, but I wanted them to hear it here.
Yeah, every time Tyquan is prayed for, honestly, I pray for the family first.
Yes.
They lost a child, and I repeat that sentiment all the time, but still does not mean Tyquan should be continuously persecuted. But I do pray for them for strength and comfort.
And they deserve justice, absolutely. But it can't be, Tyquan cannot be the person that they lay on the line for this, because he is innocent. And I do pray for them as well, and I know Chris as well.
Yeah,
that they find some sort of
ill will toward the Flacco family.
Neither do I.
And I pray that the real killer, because he's out there, definitely gets caught. Because that's someone you don't want on the street. We want Tyquan on the street. We don't want this person, to kill again. So free Tyquan Atkinson.
Free Tyquan.
Free Tyquan.
And
Tyquan 22.
Yes. And thank you, my sister.
Thank you for
my
having
new
me.
sister, Stacy, and my white brother over here. You'll blend in our mixed family anyway. But thanks, Chris.
I'm
honestly,
glad to be here. Thank you for having
me.
me.
Thank you for really standing with Stacy and really using your gifts and expertise.
Yeah, I'm really glad to. I mean, I wish we'd met under different circumstances, but
I'm glad I know you now.
Yeah, absolutely. Same.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we're going to call it quits for now. I want to thank my guest, for coming. And of course, we believe that Tyquan Atkinson is a political prisoner at this point, and that's how we're going to label him until he's out. So keep him and the family in your prayers. Free Tyquan Atkinson. This is Asa Khalif, and you've been listening to In Studio with Asa Khalif podcast. Peace and blessings.